Hey guys, you know what a favorite pastime hobby of mine is? Log rolling. No, it's not, but I do log RPGs. And this time we're here to log Chrono Cross for the second time. And this time, I beat time. How's that? Well, I beat the game. My RPG log comes in at about 42 hours and 20 some odd minutes, give or take, and I'm super thrilled. I'm super thrilled to be here talking about Chrono Cross today. I did the previous RPG log at about 12 hours in, and I will be talking about this game in depth and more analytically with Spencer over on his YouTube channel and podcast, RPG Archive. So go check it out. Go subscribe to him if you want a more in-depth and thorough look at some of the stories and mechanics of Chrono Cross. For today, I just want to talk about my overall impressions. I'll try and keep it spoiler-free, but try and give you some juicy details where I can, because it's a damn good game. And I want to clarify a couple things. First of all, the main character, Sarge. No, it's not Sarge. I thought it was Sarge. It's spelled S-E-R-G-E. But apparently it's something closer to Serge. The Japanese hiragana reading is Serge. So I'm going to call him Serge. It's not Serge, it's not Sarge, it's Serge. Someone blew the surge. But I'm keeping the Serge. I don't know. Whatever. Moot point. Moving on. The character system. Okay, this was a picking point for me early on. I felt that none of the main characters, or the side characters rather, besides Serge and Kid, were particularly well developed. That kind of changes as the game progresses. It gets better, and it really intersects with the core dimension of the game, in that this is not exactly a game about going forward or backward in time like Chrono Trigger was. It's more so about moving across time in parallel dimensions. And so you get different insights into a lot of the same characters, and that can be really cool. You can see them develop, and you can see their relationships with other characters in ways that you might not have expected. Nikki, I felt in the first 10 hours of the games, was completely devoid of character, which was very uncharacteristic of a rock star, which is why I picked him. He's a guitar player, and there was no personality to him. That completely is turned on its head at the major turning point of the game. And that's a really good thing to see. And I really do like the ways that you encounter many of the terrains in Chrono Cross. You really do spend a decent bit of time exploring them, when even though it seems like there's not a lot to explore, you're always wondering, did I explore this in the best way possible? Was there something I missed? Was there another way I could have explored it? There are a bunch of islands surrounding the main island, and I love that you get this kind of choice about how you want to proceed. You know, do you want to explore the Earth Dragon Isle or the Sky Dragon Isle? And you get some options there. And, you know, it is kind of limited in how far you can go, but the actual events at each area are very unique and varied. And it just feels like it's an action-packed adventure. And that's a really good feeling. The core narrative itself is confusing. I'm definitely going to let you know that. And I also want you to know that there are explicit ties to Chrono Trigger. Does that mean you have to play Chrono Trigger before going in? No, but it's going to be even more confusing than it already is. I played Chrono Trigger twice, and I'm still scratching my head at a lot of moments in Chrono Cross. Trust me, it's going to make for a great archive. With that being said, I found it intriguing. I always wanted to know more. Wow, what's the connection here to, so-and-so from the first game? And, oh, how is this storyline going to develop? They're always hinting at things throughout the core experience, and you are left wondering what's going to happen. And so this play on dimensional awareness is really exciting. It's really well done. It is hard to figure out, but I don't know that it's necessarily meant to be figured out either. Supposedly a lot of people on the internet are left scratching their heads at this. I do want to talk about the party system as a whole. I kind of touched on the gameplay mechanic of the stamina meter and how you would use it to unlock more skills in your kind of individual skill trees. There is actually room to go more in depth about that. First off, this is not Pokemon. Understand that. It's going to seem like it is because there's elements and some have elemental strengths and others elemental weaknesses. But it's actually more of a gentleman's game in my experience with it because it's a bit more of a level playing field. It's not like water only has 2 weaknesses and then is super effective against 5 things. That's how Pokemon works. The way Chrono Cross works is it's more balanced. There are 6 element types: white, black, red, blue, and yellow, and green. And they each work in pairs in terms of opposites. So white affinity is weak to black and black is weak to white. And so there's advantages and disadvantages to bringing in a character of a certain affinity into a battle. You don't have a choice with the main character, but with the other characters you can kind of play around with that. But the benefit is, you know, that way you can use certain elements and they're not restricted to any affinity. You could have one character with elements from all types of affinities. You can have one with every type of affinity, and you do get that sense of liberation and customization in your party. And then by that same token, you can also alternate the characters. Now, it's interesting because in my first log of the first 12 hours, I didn't switch the party at all, and I had like 12 characters in my roster. Later on, it became laughable how many characters I had. I had characters just throwing themselves at me, saying, "Let me join you." There was one 5-minute interval where I had like 5 characters join me. I looked at the strategy guide, and apparently you can recruit a turnip. You can recruit a turnip as a playable character into your roster. Isn't that crazy? Regardless, I did like the ability to switch out characters, and the other good thing is that your characters are leveling up alongside you too. They're not static, like only the ones in the party are leveling up. No, everybody's leveling up. Not as much as the people in the party, but they are still leveling up. And so that was a refreshing thing to see later in the game when I found that a couple of my affinity combinations weren't working. The bosses get really hard as you keep going in this game. It's actually, it's a really good challenge, but there is the benefit of being able to run from any battle. And as you do, this is one of the only games I've ever seen this, and it's so cool. You can actually heal your party without using consumables. You can just use their spells, and there's no like a certain amount of magic power that you need, and like it doesn't deplete and you need to go to like Nurse Joy and heal your magic power. No, it just lets you pick that as an option from the menu when you leave the fight. There was only one boss battle I couldn't run from. It kept dragging me back in, but I did manage that one with the help of Spencer. I think it's okay if you don't fully understand the way that the element system or the battle system works just yet, because it is still pretty intuitive. And I actually grew to really like seeing the different characters, the different abilities, and also some of their special techniques. I do wish I could have found it more intuitive in how I could have explored the characters and their lore. You can, go to certain areas and you can bring a certain character sometimes and they'll have their own certain unique storylines. I actually missed a few along my way to the finish. And that actually brings me to another point about just how exactly, not intuitive, but how streamlined is the core game. And I played most of it without needing any assistance from a strategy guide. The hardest parts for me were boss battles and a couple of those like PS1 not overworld, in-world textures that I just found hard to see on the screen. But I did figure those out on my own. The only problem was that there's a good ending and a bad ending, and the bad ending really sucks. I won't tell you why. I'll let you experience it for yourself if you choose to just, play the game without any assistance. But I found it really hard to figure out how to get the good ending without consulting the strategy guide. It wasn't like too difficult to figure out, and the guide I was using actually made me try and figure it out on my own too. But there were just some things I just didn't see like on the overworld, and I didn't think to go back in certain points in time, and also like there were some characters I did really like that I didn't get to play with as much in the game, and that's because of how much they allowed you to play with that character. So that was a little disappointing for me. But other than that, I did really like the culmination of the game. And I'd say I have about like a 50% understanding of what the hell just happened, like what transpired narrative-wise. And I'm okay with that because at the end of the day, it was intriguing and it encouraged me to try and figure it out. As far as replay value goes, I don't like, there is some new game plus content, which is awesome. And, I would like to go back and do that, but I'm going to take a little respite from this. I'm primarily just going to do my research on it, let it sit for a bit, but I am definitely coming back to Chrono Cross. It was just such a favorable experience for me. And I have to say, having played Chrono Trigger gave me such a deeper appreciation for this game. If you haven't played Chrono Cross, I encourage you to play Chrono Trigger first and then come back and play Chrono Cross. But that's my log for my 42-hour playthrough of Chrono Cross. Would you be willing to try it if you haven't? If you have, do these points resonate with you? Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next video where we can cross paths. Get it? Chrono Cross? See ya.